in degrees. And the idea in this form of instruction was that I'm going to give you a little bit of this information, and your application of this knowledge tells me how much you really understand. And your understanding of this knowledge should be demonstrated in your speech and your actions. And because of the fact that the Greeks were intellectually incapable of understanding the depth of African knowledge, the Kemetic priests limited the introduction which they shared to them. Because if you put power in the hands of a fool, you'll get wars in Iraq and wars in Afghanistan. You'll get the mess that we're experiencing right now. And so what I want us to understand that the Kemetic model of education, issuing information in degrees, is the model for the education, for the educational system that exists in the world today, and it is the model for the educational system that exists in Masonry today. So, for example, elementary school takes you up to the 8th degree or the 8th grade. High school takes you up to the 12th degree or the 12th grade. Bachelor's takes you up to the 16th degree. Master's is the 18th degree. PhD is the 20th degree. But the highest level in Masonry, in the Scottish Rite Order of Masonry, is the 33rd degree. The highest level in the York Rite Order of Masonry is the 13th degree. Now, it's important for us to understand that in Kemet, the priests in Kemet had 360 degrees of knowledge. But they only taught the Greeks less than 10% of what they knew. Okay? And with that 10% of knowledge, with that remedial education, the Greeks went on to become the creators of civilization for Europe. So we have to put that in perspective in order to understand the people who purport to be the greatest philosophers and scientists of all time. Their knowledge doesn't compare to the knowledge that existed 3000 BC and before. Okay? So, in this context, what we're dealing with the secret is information from this point in time in history. Remedial information. Remedial secrets. Not the real deal. Okay? So, let's get back to that scene in the dramatization and deal with that image on the wall behind the scribe. That image was the image of Jehuti. Jehuti was the nature or the personality who represented the process of divine articulation of speech. He was also the nature associated with writing. Divine speech. So if you understand the process, before you speak words, you must first formulate those words in your mind. So thinking precedes speech. And your thoughts and your words are expressed in what you write. So all of these attributes were associated with Jehuti. Now, it's important for us to realize that when the Greeks first started coming to Kemet around 500 BC, Pythagoras came somewhere around 500 BC and studied in Kemet for 23 years. Before he introduced the Pythagorean theorem to his people, it had already been developed and utilized in Kemet for thousands and thousands of years before he discovered it or rediscovered it. That's a more appropriate term. But it's important for us to understand that when the Greeks came into Kemet, they didn't understand all of the concepts. They couldn't speak the language, but they did the best they could. Right? They were kind of like, and this is not a pun, but they were kind of like the Hispanics who come over here. Can't speak the language, but they do the best they can. So, the Greeks refer to Jehuti, as taught. And it is from the Greek word taught that we have derived the word thought. Because this is the attribute associated with Jehuti, or taught. Now, follow this sequence. When the Greeks conquered Kemet in 332 BCE, they Hellenized Jehuti, and he became known to them as Hermes, god of writing. Hermes, the messenger god. They also referred to Hermes as Hermes Trismegistus, Hermes the thrice great. So they're calling Hermes after his Kemetic name, and supposedly now this emerald tablet was written by Hermes. So it was written by a Greek god who was descended from an African nature. Now, when I examined this emerald tablet, I was struck by the fact that the writing of the emerald tablet is Phoenician and Greek. It's not Kemetic. It's not Kemetic. So it's not our information. It's someone else doing the best they can to interpret what preceded them by 3,000 years. And without the skill set to know the language, or the concepts associated with the language, or the philosophy associated with both, they got it bass backwards. Now, when Rome entered the picture in 30 BC and conquered Egypt, they changed the name of Hermes to Mercury. They Latinized his name. Same personality seen through 3 different cultures over a period of 3,000 years. Now, it's important for us to understand this and put it in the context of this timeline, because these same images are a part of our society today. We just don't have a historical framework with which to analyze it. So, you all are familiar with this man, the FTD man? That's Mercury. That's Hermes. That's Jehuti. He is the bringer of messages, whether it's flowers, whether it's love letters, whatever. And you see that the FTD man has wings on his head and wings on his feet, as does Mercury, as does Hermes. It represents swiftness of thought and swiftness of movement. Attributes that were originally associated with this African personality. All right? Now, you've seen this image? This is the caduceus. This is the symbol of medicine. You notice that the caduceus, Mercury is holding a caduceus. Hermes is holding a caduceus. This object is referred to as the staff of Hermes. It is a symbol associated with the healing arts, medicine. But it has an African origin. The Temple of Abydos. There's this photograph of Jehuti holding in his hand, his left hand, 2 staffs. And there's a serpent wrapped around each of the 2 staffs. One staff has a crown, has a serpent wearing the crown of Upper Kemet in the south. The other has the crown of the serpent wearing the symbol of Lower Kemet in the north. Symbols which represented geographically Upper and Lower Kemet, but also metaphysically, they also represented the upper and lower regions of the body, the upper and lower regions of the mind. This was a roadmap for you. This was a roadmap of your body. This is a symbol for who you are as a spiritual being having a human experience. So, it's important for us to know this history so that we can understand what it means. This symbol also represents well-being, balance, and harmony. The balance and harmony that it's talking about is the balance and harmony of the energy which flows from the universe into you through your body. And this energy has to be balanced. It has to be maintained. This energy, once it flows into the body, is broken down into 2 segments, which are represented by the 2 serpents, positive and negative energy, or masculine and feminine energy. Both are equally important. Both have to be in balance and harmony in order for you to experience health or freedom from disease, which is what the wings at the top of the caduceus represents. As a result of understanding this knowledge and applying this knowledge in your life, you are free from mental, physical, and emotional disease, and you can function as you were supposed to function. Now, the temple where this image was photographed is the Temple of Abydos. Abydos is the oldest temple in Kemet, and archaeologists also agree that this is the oldest temple site in the world. The footprint of this temple can be dated back to over 4,500 BC. Okay? So the more we study history, the more we find the role that African people have played in the development of all of those things which makes people civilized. So we have to understand that. How you all doing? Doing okay? Yeah. All right. Well, let's do this. Let's take a 10-minute break. Some folks need to go to the restroom. Let's give you a chance to digest what you've heard thus far. 10-minute break. It's 4:30 now, 3:30 now. We'll come back at 3:40, and we'll continue with the second part of the presentation, which is unlocking the secrets of the secret. Okay?